And we are back on Vikings Territory Breakdown, the inaugural episode of Vikings Territory Breakdown. As you guys know by now, I'm Joe Johnson, owner of PurplePTSD.com and VikingsTerritory.com, here with my soulmate, mentor, life partner, Joe Oberly. And each week we are going to be previewing the upcoming opponent until the season runs out, and then I guess we fake our deaths and flee the country. It's a perfect plan. Uh,
Soulmate. I gotta go, Joe. Sorry, I can't talk now. It breaks me up.
uh, the man officiating our upcoming nuptials is Mr. Mike Wobby Wobschall, who is going to be joining us each week to again break down the upcoming opponent until the season ends, and we'll figure out what to do from there. But how are you doing, Mr. Wobby?
Well, I'm great, thank you. Good to talk to you guys again. And I
Yeah.
actually am certified by the American Marriage something or other to be a reverend and ordained minister at weddings. In fact, I just did my best friend's.
Oh
Over
Did
in
you
the state of
really?
Wisconsin. Yeah, because Wisconsin is actually operating as they should, and they're open for business. So we had the wedding over there instead of in Minnesota, where the Gestapo is on you at every turn. So yeah, we
Yeah.
went over across the river into enemy territory, and we had a good time. And I set a wedding. So
well, this just gets scarier as we go along.
yeah,
I
I
was
know.
planning to be hooked up today. So anyway,
You got ambushed, Joe.
I got it. I got a gun to my head as we speak. Um, Spoiler alert. My hand is on the trigger. Yeah, you could make a. That sounds like a good racket, Wobby. In the VWO world, especially, I think you can make a nice little killing officiating weddings between people named Sir Gustavus and Lady Deathstrike or whatever they do. Since people haven't heard you on the show before, because it's the first show ever, I wanted to kind of get a baseline for where you're at with this Vikings team. You know, I think a lot of people are incorrectly labeling them mediocre when it's almost the kind of the same thing as Cousins' career with the Vikings. They're either really, really good and inspiring, or awful. It's like my last EKG. I so I'm wondering, I know some people think of you as a little bit more of an optimistic Vikings fan. Are you solely for 2020, not looking forward because there's a lot of potential in youth here? What are your thoughts on where they're at and where they're going?
Yeah, I think the Vikings are a team that you're not going to look at as a top 2 or 3 team to reach the Super Bowl in the NFC, but you also would not point your finger at the Vikings and say that's a team I wouldn't mind seeing right now to get a win. They're in that middle range, and I think for me, what I've really paid the most attention to and what I like the most is I think that teams messed around with the Vikings defense for the first month or month and a half, and then I think Zim was like, all right, I got this. I got this figured out, and now we're good. And so I think the Vikings defense is stabilizing. I think a lot of concerns about the defensive front have been, maybe not satisfied, but I think there's a little more. I see. That's what they were doing. Oh, I see. They like Chase Swan before we even knew how to pronounce his last name. So I think a little bit of that is going on. And here's the deal, and then I'll toss it back to you. The Vikings, as long as Kirk Cousins is their quarterback, the Vikings are going to be a team that you can't really pinpoint what they are because Cousins is streaky, good and bad, and that's just who he is. And when it's good, the Vikings can win. They can beat people like they're doing. But when it's not good, they start 1-4 or 1-5.
did you hear that, Joe? He said he's streaky. Did you hear that? I hope you heard that.
Opinion. That's my opinion, and I'm not trying to come at Joe because I know
I know.
Joe's got a lot of concrete and well-rounded opinions on Kirk.
I'm adding
just
that
saying
to the sound bar. That's
what
going on.
I
That's
see
going on the sound bar.
is I see a streaky quarterback. I see a guy who just gets streaky, but when it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
He's right. I agree with him. If there's anything we've wanted to see from Kirk anyway, to go off on this tangent, is more consistency. But man, when he's playing well, he is, and we saw it last week. He was in command. He was confident. He was feeling good in the pocket, finding his receivers, going through his progressions. He was everything you want in a quarterback at this level. That it gives you confidence that you can go somewhere. When he's not, when he's skittish, when he's being rushed and not getting much time, and those things aren't happening, and it all kind of falls apart as a result, and then all the lightning goes at him, and so it's frustrating. So I mean, I've been a moderate on Kirk, a moderate bullish on Kirk. I've always loved what I saw when I enjoyed it, but I get a little frustrated. But I'm still behind him, just somewhere in the middle, I guess. So.
And I don't necessarily disagree with you guys either. I think that you kind of nailed it. When he's on, he puts up statistically the similar numbers to some of the more elite quarterbacks in the NFL. He did that. He started the first 4 games of last season were bad. Then he was basically on fire. My frustration or kind of analysis of Cousins is there are ways. Everybody knows what his weaknesses are. We knew that before he came here, and I feel like there's ways to mitigate some of those negative streaks in terms of giving him more time, rolling him out of the pocket maybe. Because Joe and I have done a show for years. We always talk about maybe when he's running, he's not thinking so much, therefore he's not panicking. Those sort of things that I think we've seen with Dalvin Cook elevating his game yet again, for Cousins to not be the focal point, for him to do more play action, which he's arguably the best quarterback in the NFL in play action, so on and so forth. And so I've never put him up there with people used to do with Teddy after a 14-9 season, that he was a top 5 quarterback.
Joe, how about those
I just think
scrambles? How about those 2 scrambles for first downs last week? I thought those were incredible. Something we never have seen enough of from Kirk. I mean, when he got out of the pocket and raced for at least 10 yards and got a couple of nice big first downs, I thought it was great. Love to see more of that.
Lamar Jackson, he's not as statuesque, I think, as people claim he is, but I think there's not a ton of nuance out there about Cousins or the team in general. Looking at the playoffs, what do you guys genuinely think are the odds that they're going to expand to 8 teams with what's going on with Pittsburgh and Baltimore? And I think the rule is if they have to basically suspend any games, they'll just expand to an 8-team playoff format, which I think would make sense. I mean, look at what happened in Denver last weekend with practice squad wide receiver playing quarterback. It's only a matter of time before that happens, or maybe the league gets herd immunity at this rate. What do you think, Wobby? What is 4chan telling you?
Yeah, I mean, teams have played 11 games, right? So, which my private school math tells me that we've got a handful more games to go. And with this,
let me check that.
At this stage, I think that there's maybe a coin flip chance that a game gets totally canceled. And if that is truly the threshold for expanding it to 8 games, then by definition, I think it's 50-50 that it's going to 8. If it goes to 8, I think the Vikings are above 50% chance to get in.
Yeah.
If it stays at 7, I think they're right in the 38, 40, 42% range. And and so that's going to be fun to watch down the stretch. And I remember working for the team for 15 years. It was just, of course we want to make the playoffs, win the division, make the playoffs, get to the Super Bowl win. But when it came down to just work and having to come in every day and grind, and when you're eliminated from the playoffs with 6 games to go, that last month and a half of the season is a bear. I mean, it sucks. And so every game you win, every week you're still in it. When you get into November and December, you're just loving it as a team member, because it's that's one less week we're going to have to go through something monotonous and awful at the end of the year. So I think the Vikings are in good shape for the rest of the season to be in the hunt. And I think when you take a look at the Seattle Seahawks, who are currently the number 2 seed, and they look down the playoff ledger at the teams that are in the hunt, they're going to play, if the playoffs started right now, they're going to play the 7 seed, which is the Arizona Cardinals. But it could be the Vikings who are the 8th seed or the Bears who are the 9th seed. The Seahawks would not choose or root for the Vikings to get into the playoffs in that scenario. They would be rooting probably for the Bears or maybe their division rival, the Cardinals. And this is what I mean by, the Vikings are not a team you're going to look at and say, yeah, we want them. We want them in a play-in game. We want them in the first round of the playoffs. So I think it's going to be fun to watch. The Vikings are going to be a fun team to watch down the stretch because every game is going to feel like a quasi play-in game for them.
Yeah.
I like the numbers you put to them, Wobby. That's interesting to hear that. And for me though, I come down to being a guy that's watched the Vikings my entire life, which if anybody doesn't know, I'm much older than these two youngsters, but I don't think the Vikings are that lucky that they would all of a sudden have an eighth seed in the playoffs just so the Vikings can get in. So that's probably the way it goes. But for me, it comes down to the Cardinals. I think that's who we're going after. And
yep.
They're this team above us, and if the Vikings can just be better than them on the rest of the way, I think they can get in. I think the Bears will drop off. I think the 49ers showed something last week, but I still don't think they have a good enough team to make it. So I think the Vikings are in a good position there. But the Cardinals have been up and down. They've got 2 games against the Rams left, one against the 49ers, and then a couple easier games, Eagles and Giants, I believe. So the Vikings have the tougher schedules. It's and they're a down game, so you got to climb ahead of them. So we'll see. Kyle Murray is kind of they've beaten some really good teams and they've lost to some bad teams. So they're kind of a team with a young quarterback that doesn't have it totally figured out, but who's just dynamic as heck. So stay with them and stay at pace with those guys and get ahead of them, and I think they can get into that 7th spot.
I mean, you have to like the fact that, like you mentioned, Joe, Arizona's got a lot of those NFC West teams are going to be playing one another. And so you have to kind of hope, I guess, that the Seahawks win as many as possible, or maybe that I don't public school math. I don't know splitting those games would do between the 49ers and the Cardinals, but they feel like they're a little bit of a year ahead of schedule. The Cardinals do, or maybe 2 years ahead of schedule. But Joe, you're right. I think I always look at everything NFL related as it pertains to the Vikings as what's the worst possible outcome, and then that's probably what's going to happen with the Vikings. And so I don't think we'll be lucky enough to get that 8th seed. But I think Wobby's percentages were actually like dead on from the playoff odds that I wrote an article about earlier this week. So look at that, mine like a steel trap. Wobby, you mentioned that you were obviously a member of the Vikings organization for a really long time, and there was an article that was written by a guy who used to write for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and most recently Bleacher Report, who started one of those Substack newsletter sort of things, and he did this deep dive, basically analysis as to the state of the Vikings, with a lot of sources both on and off the record. I checked with a couple of them to make sure that I wasn't reporting on something that was just pulled from whole cloth. And essentially, I mean, there was some good and some bad, but the bad was a lot of inner turmoil, kind of building off of the toxic leadership thing that Red Ellison's dad talked about. Players giving up on Zimmer blaming people, Zimmer being verbally abusive to Spielman, surprisingly, a lot of stuff like that. And we're going to talk to Coach Tice about that as well, about coaches losing a locker room. And I think the one thing that stood out from one of the sources was look at the Week 17 Bears game from 2018. That's basically all you need to know about how the team felt or feels about Zimmer at times. Was that something that, I mean, that you ever witnessed or thought was a problem with these Vikings? Or do you think maybe it's a generational thing with these younger players not really, knowing how to deal with that sort of old school Parcellian's coaching style?
I think I'm not anyone under Zimmer leave the reservation and maybe sort of fall out of the marching orders. I'm sure it's happened on isolated cases, but when I was there, I never saw anything but command by Zim and respect for the team by the players. And I think part of that you give credit to Mike Zimmer for his ability to lead, his ability to listen, and then, to decide and make the right call on when you put your foot down and go your way or the highway, and then when you decide to relent a little bit and blur the lines. I think Zim is good at that. But I also think that you need to credit the people who are charged with scouting and selecting players in the draft, because a lot of the fall out of the team way, or to stay within the team way, is part of a player's competitive DNA, and that is sort of discovered during the scouting process. So I think Rick Spielman and his staff also deserve credit for that. And as long as both the coach and the amount, not going to run into very many problems, and I think that's where the Vikings have been with the Spielman and Zimmer tandem.
And they've always talked about how they want to get with Wobby, that they're like looking for us. I think you kind of described someone that really eats, sleeps, and what's football. It's someone who loves the game, who wants to go out there and play, you can't always figure that out, before they've come into your training facility and stuff happens. But I think that's been their idea, is to get a certain mentality for their football team. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that, one thing that seems or rings a little hollow there is the fact that a lot of these guys have taken pay cuts, especially on Zimmer's baby, the defense, to stay here, restructure their deals multiple times or turn down bigger deals from, granted it's the Jets, so it's like, leaving Target to work for the last Kmart in the Midwest or something. But, I think that it's one of those things that, a lot of the people defending him were players that were more our age, Wobby. And I think, Coach Tice talked about when he retired that some guys, everyone grows up, especially being an athlete with social media, just being, God's gift to life. And I think that maybe some of those old school coaching techniques don't always work, but they work for people that have success. I think that's the kind of the reason that a lot of the Parcells assistants have that curse where they don't work out as head coaches, because they show up day one thinking they're working thinking they're Belichick, and they haven't earned that respect from the team yet. And so as long as Zimmer keeps winning, I think everything will be fine. But I thought it was a kind of an interesting view into the goings on over at TCO, since I've essentially solidified myself as never getting a press pass ever. Let's do
everything's dynamic in the team, don't you think, Joe? Everything's dynamic and how it's changes, so you never know what's coming down the pike, but you just try to keep it on an even keel and try to stay the course and see what happens.
Yeah,
there. How about that for a vague statement?
I like it. It's been a 2020's just been crazy. It's if it's not one thing, it's another. Speaking of which, Jacksonville coming up this Sunday. It's got every single smattering of a trap game, which I know Mr. Oberly is a gigantic fan of that phrase. We talked a lot about that with the Cowboys game, actually, and whether or not some people will argue these aren't trap games. But Jacksonville started 1-0, lost 10 games in a row now. They've played tough against a couple teams. Green Bay snuck by them. I think they just lost to Cleveland by 2 points last weekend. They have a really good young running back in James Robinson, who I think is third in the league in most statistical categories. But their defense is atrocious, and so I wonder how much down the stretch you guys expect them to air the ball out more, especially with Thielen coming back, to try to keep Dalvin healthy, either for the playoffs or just for, him not dying of natural causes at the age of 26 or something, moving forward. With the defense that bad, do you expect to see more from Cousins and company, especially because they're clicking so much? Or what? Outside of that, any keys to the game you think, Wobby?
I don't think that in terms of saving Dalvin, for lack of a better term, pitch counting him to keep him fresh, I don't see that being part of the strategy, at least not this week, because I think it's everything you got to win every game you can, because that's what it's going to come down to at the end of the season. So, what good is a fresh Dalvin going to do you if if you're in Los Angeles or Las Vegas, or, enjoying
playing
the off season instead of playing in the playoffs? So,
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't see pitch being in play. I don't think it's 35 carries, ride Dalvin or die. I mean, I think it's the coach speak. We want balance and play action and all that, but I don't think there's a deviation from the plan in an effort to keep Dalvin fresh. I think the effort is going to be using, for lack of a better term, utilizing Dalvin to get into the playoffs, if anything.
I see that coach speak you referred to of balance. That I think that's going to be a big key for this game, because the defense for the Jaguars is so bad against the run and the pass that they can gash them either way. And so, I'd like to see them. I agree with what you say. It'll be some kind of. It won't be an extreme either way. I'd like to see him ride Cousins with the confidence he's got going right now. Let him get out there and really start feeling as though it's run up the score against a team that's really not very good on defense and really beat a team that you're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
They've lost a few of them they shouldn't, and I'd like to see them just really do what it says on paper they should do this week.
Yeah,
Maybe not have
a.
I think. I'll go for it, Wobby.
I just think balance to me is not 30 runs a game and 30 passes a game. To me, balance is if we need to run it in this situation or in this game to win, we can. But if we need to pass it in this situation or in that game to win, we can. I think that is balance. I don't think it's an equal play call on a drive or a game. Yeah.
No, I think you're right, and I think that's one of the things that, I mean, at least offensively, like you touched on earlier, Wobby, people might not want to face this Vikings team, assuming they can make the playoffs, because they can really beat you offensively in every single facet of the offense. And there's a lot of things I think that we haven't even seen from this offense yet. More, doing more 2 tight end sets, at least in terms of distributing the ball to the tight ends. Just getting Dalvin involved more in the passing game. He's slowly, incrementally gotten more and more screens, but that's something they haven't really had to lean on, which I think is good. It's kind of like the preseason philosophy of not showing people things they don't need to see until they need to see them. And so it's hard not to get a little bullish, because this Vikings offense has been just astounding since the bye. I think they're basically averaging since the bye half a point less per game than the 98 Vikings did. That's a testament to Justin Jefferson, who we can talk about next week. But my main hope is that this game just doesn't come down to the wire, because I feel like I'm staring at a solar eclipse without one of those punch cards. It's aging me horribly. It's not good for any single aspect of my life. Beat a team, like Joe said, beat a team that you're supposed to beat. Let us just have a nice, calm afternoon, and I think that'll happen.
Not the Vikings, okay.
And then just somehow find a way to play an entire game without having any special teams plays, I guess, is my hope and my dream. In a world I one day want to live in.
I'd like to see a little bit less from usage of Dalvin, just because, he is getting worn down a little bit. Even though I'm on my fantasy team, I hate to say this, but we saw what a rested Dalvin was like in the playoffs last year, and that was
true.
That was nice. So he's always one play away from getting hurt and being done. So just like anybody else, but they'll figure it out. I trust them.
And so, since this is the first show, as people probably don't know if they haven't listened to the podcast Joe and I did Forever Morning Joe's, we've been doing a score prediction segment forever. Essentially, predict the score, keep track of who's off by the most, and usually by week 2, I'm off by a number that before that was theoretical to mathematicians. I always kind of go big or go home with my score predictions, and we've been doing it all season, and I think I'm down by like 6 or 7 points. And so I guess
You came into the game down by 23, but you picked up a point last week.
1 point.
You had one better. Yes, you were spot on the Vikings score, and you had the actually no. Well, you picked up a point on me, so you're now down by 22, and so you get to go first, Joe.
6 or 7, right? Yeah, I do think the Vikings are going to win. I'm not doing the sensible things. At this point, it's a Price is Right situation. I'm gonna have to make up some ground with only a couple games to go. I think the Vikings are gonna light them up, though. I think it'll be reminiscent of that 98 team that I believe it was 98 when they beat the Jags 50-3. I'm going 44 to 28 Vikings.
I love it. Well, I'll just go quickly. I'm going to go less than that. Like I said, I think they'll. The Jags are. You look at them yardage wise, they can't stop either facet of the game. Maybe they can stop the Vikings special teams, as you alluded to earlier. But I think it'll be a little less. And I'm going to go 31-23 Vikings. Wobby, do you have any kind of idea or prediction for this one?
Well, I mean, I think the Vikings are going to come out on the right side of things, and to me, the Vikings defense is the way that I feel comfortable predicting them to win this game. It's not that I think the Vikings are going to score a million on Jacksonville's defense. It's that I just don't know how Jacksonville is going to come in here and score, 24 or 27. It's hard for me to see that in this game. So I like the Vikings in this game for a variety of reasons, defense being primary among them, and to put numbers, just to give it one of 27 or 26-13 type of games. And so, like 27-13 sounds like a football score that you see quite a bit. So that's the one I would go on the record with. And that's not, a blowaway. That's not, something or a blowout. I mean, that's not something that you run away with and you got your feet up in the fourth quarter. But I don't think it's a sweat like the Vikings had last week.
Well, we only got $1,000 going on this, so you'll be good. Make sure to bring it next time.
Now that's some heavy hitting money right there. I mean, I was all for officiating the wedding, but I don't want to referee a $1,000 bet. I'm out on that.
Very, very good, Wobby. Very good.
Yeah. We should have called this the Broken Thumbs show. But yeah, to put a pin on that, I don't feel entirely great about my pick. I'm trying to make up some ground. I think a perfect Vikings game is something along the lines of that Seattle game, except for the outcome, where they have those long, methodical drives and just are incredibly efficient in the red zone and score a lot of touchdowns. And you can only really get, a handful of those. So we'll see what happens. It would just really be nice for them to hit 500 and for all of us to not have to rely on missed field goals or what have you to feel good about ourselves for the week. But this has been the inaugural episode of the Vikings Territory Breakdown show. You can find all of our contents every day. We are posting about 4 to 6 to some days 10 new articles about the Vikings, fantasy football, the NFC in general, on VikingsTerritory.com and PurplePTSD.com. We have a bunch of different podcasts that we do as well. Wobby and I do a show called 3 Deep with Wobby. That is amazing. We've had a lot of great guests. We had Coach Tyson, Matt Burke, the week before last, so you can find that on VikingsTerritory.com as well. I wanted to thank you guys for coming on the show as always. You guys are the best. I don't know why you work with me, but I'm glad you do. We will check in with everybody next week, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock on KDLM Radio, Detroit Lakes. Skol.